Welcome to the breakdown. Today we're going to be taking a look at 10 restaurants that are currently struggling in 2020. Many of them have declared bankruptcy already, and others are reportedly very close to it, or one of their sister companies are in bankruptcy already and they're struggling. Now I'll start off with all the restaurants that are in bankruptcy right now. We'll talk about the ones later on, and I'll let you know which are struggling but haven't quite declared bankruptcy yet. Now 2020 has been a very hard year, and a lot of people want to blame everything that's happening on 2020. And there's some truth to that. But the real truth is businesses fail for a variety of reasons. When a pandemic happens, a bad year, often bad decisions in the past, pre-existing weaknesses in the business model, and more just become a lot more prevalent, a lot more obvious, and get accelerated. Businesses that may have failed no matter what happened, but may have made it a few more years, may just be shutting down a little earlier now because of the pandemic. So I know we love to find one reason to blame everything on. The truth is, these businesses are failing for a variety of reasons that are very complicated. So keep that in mind. Alright, before we get into the list of businesses that are struggling, do me a big favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up. It really does help us because it lets YouTube know you enjoy what we do here. Hopefully we can help you learn something new. Alright, starting off with number 1, Chuck E. Cheese. Yes, the beloved kids' birthday place, party place, whatever you want to call it. I had some kid birthdays there when I was a kid. Is struggling and already in Chapter 11 bankruptcy for reorganization. They were struggling before the pandemic, and well, with the shutdown orders, with families feeling uncomfortable, shall we say, or unwilling to go to big places where a lot of kids are in close contact, has really affected Chuck E. Cheese. Now the big problem here is when a lot of other restaurants turn to online food delivery to get some business during the shutdowns and pandemic, Chuck E. Cheese struggled. They actually went so far as to come up with a different name to try to get some sales from people, because the Chuck E. Cheese name is not a name you say, hey, I really want that pizza, I'm gonna go order it online and have it delivered to me. Now they say that they intend to come out of this Chapter 11 bigger and better, but for now they're struggling and in bankruptcy. We'll see if they got a prolonged period of time where people are unwilling to send their kids or have massive birthday parties and more at Chuck E. Cheese. That's a big problem for them, and we'll see if that Chapter 11 turns into something more serious down the road. All right, number 2, California Pizza Kitchen. Now this is a very popular chain across parts of the United States, and it's been struggling for some time. With 200 locations right now, they declared bankruptcy at the end of July this year, and according to the CEO says, quote, no restaurant in the world has been unaffected by the pandemic. For many restaurants, the pandemic will be the greatest challenge they will ever face, and he was on top of that. Now a lot of people say, well look, restaurants seem busy. That's true. The big problem they struggle with is the fact that they have fewer people inside the restaurant, which means you have a lot of empty tables. A lot of empty tables means lower revenue. A lot of people are very scared to go out. Overall, they're struggling. Even if it may seem like your restaurant's busy, overall the numbers are down. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out in the long run. But they are struggling. I've mostly seen these at airports. I don't live in a part country where they're very popular. Let me know, are you a fan of the California Pizza Kitchen? I've seen their pizzas in freezers and more, so let me know. All right, here's one I remember very fondly from my years working at a summer camp in the New England area. Friendly's. Friendly's is a chain of restaurants that is well known for their ice cream and kind of diner-esque feel. Well, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in November of this year, and they announced that it's reached an agreement to be acquired by a restaurants investment group out there for just under $2 million. Now that's kind of shocking. Their debt and all their liabilities must be very high for a very large restaurant chain to only get less than $2 million in a sale. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But Friendly's is a big staple in the Northeast in the United States. Hopefully it doesn't go away. I enjoyed their food. It was kind of a diner place we went to as staff often on our days off. I'd love to know what you think of all this. All right, number 4, Ruby Tuesdays, struggling across the board. And they started with Chapter 11 bankruptcy after closing 150 restaurants so far in 2020. Their future has gotten even darker since then, with rumors they'll shut down everything. And but for now, when they announced the Chapter 11 bankruptcy, they said operations would continue as normal, but they're struggling heavily. Ruby Tuesdays was facing strong headwinds from their competitors, Applebee's and Fridays, who had been doing far better for a lot longer. Now Ruby Tuesdays is announcing that they're going to be forced into bankruptcy. Number 5. Now this one may confuse you at the beginning, so hang in here with me. Wendy's and Pizza Hut, largest franchise. So the largest owner of Wendy's and Pizza Hut franchises across the United States is struggling. NPC International operates 1,200 Pizza Huts and nearly 400 Wendy's. They've declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy and are, quote, burdened with almost $1 billion in debt. A lot of these companies finance the building of their buildings and more with projections. Well, as you would expect, things haven't quite worked out. Now, the interesting thing for them is drive-thrus and deliveries have done very well during the pandemic, but still probably not well enough. Increased costs, increased demand may not always line up. Struggling to get staff is a big issue for these kind of restaurants, these kind of chains. It probably all come together, plus calls on debt, maybe not the growth they were expecting, and more. Always be careful with debt and businesses. I hear a lot of business professors, even when I went to college, tell me, Luke, finance your business plans. Just take debt. Don't risk your own money if it doesn't work out great. The problem with that is, well, you owe money. And when you have a slight downturn, 2020, a little downturn, but probably 2021, we're going to shoot right back up. You struggle to make through, where a business with lower debt does just fine. Now, I'm sure that that's not the only reason. These things fail for a complicated list of reasons. Like I said, you can't blame everything on one thing. The debt isn't probably the only bad decision here. Probably a lot more in it. All right, but we'll keep a close eye on it. It is possible, and we see these from time to time, where the parent company can come in and buy up some of their locations from the franchisee. I lived in an area where that happened to a local fast food place that was a franchise. The 3 or 4 locations that were owned by that very small franchise went under. The parent company came in and acquired those restaurants from the franchisee, closed them for a 2-week remodel, put them back open, and continued to run them. So we'll see what happens with it in the long run. All right, number 6. Now this is one I've seen all over the place. I've never gone to. Sizzler. Sizzler has only 14 company-owned locations now, but over 100 locations across the United States. And it's been struggling. Now, the company has declared bankruptcy back in September, and they say it's, quote, due to the direct financial implications of the pandemic has had on the casual dining sector. Again, maybe not a restaurant where a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to go order delivery from Sizzler. That's struggling for them. That is causing them to really face headwinds as they go forward. If you're not a restaurant people are looking to get delivery from, you're in trouble. There are a lot of restaurants out there who actually deliberately pushed away from the delivery model because they didn't like it. Well, now in 2020, if you didn't have a delivery, a good curbside pickup problem, etc., you're kind of in trouble. So we'll see how that works out. I'll be surprised if they do go under. Number 7, Twisted Root. Now this is one, we actually had one not far from where I am. Kind of surprised to see they declared bankruptcy earlier this year. Now the CEO says they intend to remain open. This is a refile of a Chapter 11 to try to manage their massive amount of debt. We'll see. We'll see how they play out. Now, I was not able to find out exactly how much debt they were in, but one of the big things they listed was the fact that they rent most of their locations. Increasingly, restaurants are not going for standalone businesses. You see them in strip malls and more. That means they rent, which does, allow you to share some of the expensive real estate land with other businesses. The downside is you have to pay your landlord every month. And in 2020, when you suddenly have to close and you're not getting income for a few months, that is a problem. Businesses are struggling with that. It's kind of one of those catch-22s. You want a restaurant in a prime location with expensive land? Well, if you put it in a strip mall, you can split that cost with other people. But when the time comes and you're in trouble, you have debt you have to obligate every year. Or if you own the land, you just have some property taxes to pay, not necessarily a mortgage. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, Soup Plantation Sweet Tomatoes is struggling. They are, though, going into Chapter 7, which means they are probably not reopening. And they intend to sell off all their assets and close its doors. Now, sometimes when they go in Chapter 7, another company may pop up, buy them out of bankruptcy and keep it going. But the current leadership and the current management team and more will not continue this business. It'll be interesting to see if Soup Plantation, which is more a regional business, has a big enough following to justify somebody buying them up, keeping them open. 2020, that's a hard sell. We'll see what happens. All right, these last two are not in bankruptcy, but are struggling, according to USA Today, and I'll put a link to that down below. Denny's, not in bankruptcy, but according to USA Today, a 41% drop in sales occurred in July of 2020 versus the same period in July of 2019. And they list it as a likely business to struggle with. Denny's is best known for late night dining, breakfast, and more, and it seems that people aren't doing that right now with the pandemic. Now, they seem far less likely to also order from Denny's. I love to know. And, I definitely say Denny's was a place I went to a few times a year for breakfast with family or friends. Can't say I really intended to actually order from them. And number 10, Applebee's. Now, their sister company, IHOP, is already in bankruptcy, according to reports, but they are seeing an 18% drop in sales or over it. Now, we'll see how this all plays out. Applebee's has struggled for a while as that middle market, we talked about this in other videos, that middle market of casual dining, not fine dining, not quick service, but that low middle one has been struggling due to increased competition. A growing number of brands are trying to compete there, and a growing trend of Americans looking for something a little bit higher quality than the traditional middle-of-the-road casual dining restaurant like an Applebee's. We'll see how that plays out. Applebee's is closing a bunch of locations. We'll see what 2021 brings them. But it's going to be a tough year if they can't find a way to turn that around. All right, there we go. Something new you learned today. 10 businesses who are struggling in bankruptcy or reportedly close to it. I'd love to hear what you think. If you're new here, do me a big favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up. It really does help us because it lets YouTube know you enjoy what we do here. Thanks for your support. I really appreciate it.